I'm Jeff Bezos. I'm the founder of Amazon.com.
I own 16% of Amazon. Amazon's worth roughly $1 trillion. That means that what we have built over 20 years, we have built $840 billion of wealth for other people.
Stress doesn't come from hard work. The stress primarily comes from not taking action over something that you can have some control over. So stress comes from ignoring things that you shouldn't be ignoring.
So this is 1994. Nobody has heard of the internet. Very, very few people. And I came across the fact that the web, World Wide Web, was growing at something like 2,300% a year. And so I looked at that and I was like, there's got to be, I should come up with a business idea and that get, on the internet and then let the internet grow around this and we can keep working on it. And so I made a list of products that I might sell online and I started force ranking them. And I picked books. Founding idea of Amazon was to build universal selection of books. The biggest bookstores only had 150,000 titles. And so that's what I did. And I hired a small team and we built the software. I moved to Seattle. We started selling music and then we started selling videos. And then I got smart and I emailed 1,000 randomly selected customers and asked them, besides the things we sell today, what would you like to see us sell? And that answer came back incredibly long-tailed. The way they answered the question was with whatever they were looking for at that moment. So like I remember one of the answers was, I wish you sold windshield wiper blades because I really need windshield wiper blades. And I thought to myself, we can sell anything this way. And then we launched electronics and toys and many other categories over time. And I was packing boxes on my hands and knees. In the first month, I was packing boxes on my hands and knees on the hard cement floors. And with somebody else standing next to me, kneeling next to me, we're packing. And I said, you know what we need? Knee pads. This is killing my knees. And this guy packing alongside me said, we need packing tables. And I was like, oh, that's the most brilliant idea I've ever heard. And the next day I went and bought packing tables and it like doubled our productivity. Think about it, as a senior executive, what do you really get paid to do? You get paid to make a small number of high-quality decisions.
Jeff Bezos quit a six-figure job on Wall Street to sell books online, a decision that almost bankrupted him, but the reason he was successful wasn't because of how hard he worked. And at the time, his company was bleeding cash. Investors wanted him to quit, and for years, it looked like he made the worst investment of his life, because at the time, selling books was very competitive and not very profitable. But Bezos knew he wasn't just building an online bookstore, he was building the future of shopping. So while everyone else saw losses, he saw opportunity, and instead of being focused on the short-term profits, he bet that one day people wouldn't just buy books online, they would buy everything. And the difference between selling books and selling books on the new fancy internet is that the opportunity will always be bigger in growing markets than in stagnant ones. Because even if you don't grow, but the market does, you end up making more money. And even though Bezos worked way harder than most people, just like Warren Buffett says, it's not about how hard you row, it's about what boat you're in.
What was going through your mind at that time? You left a good job in New York and took this leap. Were you excited? Were you scared?
So excited and scared, anxious, thought the odds of success were low. Told all of our early investors that I thought there was a 30% chance of success, by which I just meant getting your money back, not not what actually happened. Because that's the truth. Every startup company is unlikely to work. It's helpful to be in reality about that. But that doesn't mean you can't be optimistic. So you kind of have to have this duality in your head. Like on the one hand, you know what the baseline statistics say about startup companies. And on the other hand, you have to ignore all of that and just be 100% sure it's going to work. And you're doing both things at the same time. You're holding that contradiction in your head. But it was so exciting. I love, from 1994 when the company was founded to 1995 when we opened our doors, all the way until today. I find Amazon so exciting. And that doesn't mean it's like full of pain, full of problems. It's like there's so many things that need to be resolved and worked and made better and etc. But on balance, it's so fun. It's such a privilege. It's been such a joy. I feel so grateful that I've been part of that journey.
If you look at the financial success of Amazon and the stock, I own 16% of Amazon. Amazon's worth roughly $1 trillion. That means that what we have built over 20 years, we have built $840 billion of wealth for other people. And that's great. That's how it should be. I believe so powerfully in the ability of entrepreneurial capitalism and free markets to solve so many of the world's problems. Not all of them, but so many of them.
If I met Jeff Bezos 25 years ago and he told me, Dave, I want you to invest in my company. What are you doing? I'm gonna start a bookstore in my garage. And I'm gonna put it online. People buy online and I'm gonna ship out of my garage. But if you invest in me, Dave, someday I'm gonna be the richest man in the world. I'll do over $100 billion. First of all, there was no such thing as $100 billion 25 years ago. Countries didn't have 100. Our national debt wasn't $100 billion. And this dude's telling me at 26 years old that he's gonna be the richest man in the world because he has a garage and the internet. Even when he got to points of that business that were bigger than other people's business, he invested 99% of his money back into the business. He constantly took on more debt, where if he had voted for my system, he would have stopped investing and taken profits. He did not know about 100 billion, but he also didn't doubt it.
Jeff Bezos is the world's third richest man
at the moment,
and the first to become a billionaire. That's someone worth 100 billion.
He's gone from being a mad Star Trek fan to teaching himself to code before his 10th birthday onto the foundation of a tech giant. Now, billionaires have to make ruthless decisions all the time and spot money-making opportunities. So, was he destined to become super rich?
Maybe. I mean, at the age of 3, he took apart his crib with a screwdriver because he was so desperate to sleep in a bed.
Strange fact. Jeff's biological father was president of the world's first unicycle hockey club and turned professional. Can't believe there's a profession in that, but there you go.
And he did set up his first business in high school, which was a science camp.
So was he destined and born with skills for making lots of money, or did he just get lucky being in the right place at the right time?
Listen to Good Bad Billionaire to decide for yourself.
Many times we'll talk about your writing, which I would highly recommend people read, in just the letters to shareholders. So you wrote up explaining the idea of day one thinking. I think you first wrote about it in 97 letters to shareholders. Then you also, in a way, wrote about, sad to say, is your last letter to shareholders as CEO. And you said that day 2 is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. And that is why it's always day 1. Can you explain this day 1 thing? This is a really powerful way to describe the beginning and the journey of Amazon.
It's really a very simple and I think age-old idea about renewal and rebirth, and like every day is day 1. Every day you're deciding what you're going to do, and you are not trapped by what you were or who you were or any self-consistency. Self-consistency even can be a trap. And so day 1 thinking is kind of, we start fresh every day, and we get to make new decisions every day about invention, about customers, about how we're going to operate, what our even as deeply as what our principles are. We can go back to that. It turns out we don't change those very often, but we change them occasionally. And when we work on programs at Amazon, we often make a list of tenets, and the tenets are kind of, they're not principles, they're a little more tactical than principles, but it's kind of the main ideas that we want this program to embody, whatever those are. And one of the things that we do is we put, these are the tenets for this program, and then in parentheses we always put, unless you know a better way.
Jeff Bezos just moved to Florida to spend more time with Dad. Isn't that sweet, Stephen? Isn't that nice? No, it has nothing to do with his father. Give me a fucking break. He aggregated $160 billion in wealth. he would pay about another 8 or 10% in state taxes in Washington. But in the US, you're allowed to piece out to Texas or Florida and pay no income tax. The 25 wealthiest Americans pay between 6 and 8% tax rate.
What are the tax games they're playing?
You buy stocks, you never sell them, you borrow against them.
Okay, explain that to me like I'm a 10-year-old. So
Sure, you own $100 in Amazon stock.
Yeah.
You need money to buy something instead of selling the stock, and say it's gone up 50%, say it's doubled, you would have to realize a capital gain and pay long-term capital gains on that $50 gain. No, just borrow against it and let the stock continue to grow.
what rich people do is they'll buy a stock. So I'll spend 10K on Amazon stock, and then I go to a bank and the bank give me a $5,000 loan against my Amazon stock tax-free.
Right.
And I just hold the Amazon stock. Now I've got $5,000 tax-free. If the Amazon stock goes to $20,000 in value, I can go to the bank and say it's gone up now, give me another $5,000, and I just spend and live off that money. Now, if the Amazon stock collapses, I'm fine because the loan was against the stock. So they'll sell the stock at a certain point as it's collapsing to get their money back.
One of the great tax schemes in history is that stocks grow. Think of yourself as a stock. You're making $1 million a year doing a very successful podcast. Every year, the government in the UK is going to take 40% of it. If you own $1 million in stock and it goes to 2 million, you don't get taxed on it till you sell it.
Yeah, so just never sell it.
Never sell it.
And that's what Elon's doing with his
Never
companies.
sell it.
People say he's got, $200 billion, whatever. In fact, he's borrowing tax-free against those companies.
And then when he finally needs to sell it to pay off some of those loans, he moves to Texas, despite the fact he built all his wealth in California.
About a year ago, you said you wanted to look for some good philanthropic ideas, and you got, I think, 47,000 of them, and you reviewed them. And how did you decide where to put this $2 billion? And would you describe exactly what you're going to do?
Well, that process was very helpful. So I solicited ideas, kind of crowdsourced, and I got literally, as you said, something like 47,000, maybe even a little more. Some of them came to my inbox. Most of them came on social media. And I read through thousands and thousands of them. My office kind of correlated them all and put them into buckets. And there were some themes that emerged. But the other thing that's fascinating about the kind of exercise is you see just how long-tailed it is. People are interested in trying to help the world in so many different ways. I would say to a young person, you can choose a life of ease and comfort, or you can choose a life of service and adventure. Which one of those, when you're 90 years old, are you going to be more proud of? Well, Blue Origin is my space company, and I have been interested in space since I was a 5-year-old boy. I watched Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin step onto the surface of the moon. I believe it's important that humanity expand out into the solar system. I think it's important for this planet. We have a very small planet, and humanity has now gotten very big. Anybody who doesn't believe in climate change, 20 years ago, maybe you could excuse people for wondering if it's real. Today, there's so much evidence. The people who don't believe in the problem of climate change are really fooling themselves. It's an important problem, and one of the ways, there are many things we have to do about that, about climate change. But long term, one of the things that we need to do if we want to continue to have a dynamic civilization, a dynamic species, is we need to go use the near infinite resources of space.